I am 13 WMAZ meteorologist Alex Forbes. Got a situation on our hands. We are tracking the latest on Hurricane Ian. It is a Category 3 hurricane right now, re-emerging over the Gulf of Mexico off of the Cuba coast. This is the satellite, what we're seeing right now, that's called the infrared satellite, which means the different colors that are being shown are the different temperatures of the cloud tops. And it made landfall about 4:30 this morning over Cuba, and now it looks like it's going to roll off the coast about 9:30. So spending about 5 hours on shore as it continues to move towards the north at about 12 miles an hour. Winds of 125, pressure 950 millibars. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the storm was 10 miles north-northeast of Pinar del Rio, or 130 miles south of the Dry Tortugas. And you can see the center there clearly. Let me take this full so you can see it. You know, the eye very clearly moving across Cuba. Winds of 125, like I said, that would be where this, where the darkest red is here, right around the eye wall, right in there. That would be where the sustained winds of 125 miles an hour would be. Let's check out. That's kind of the same thing we just looked at. Let's check out the cone on this. So this is the 8 a.m. advisory. This is showing the Category 3 status right now here through the next few days. In fact, let me show you this a different way so that I can control it just a little bit more. So here we are. This is going to be early Thursday morning. You know, a Cat 3 hurricane making landfall somewhere right around the Tampa Bay area. Continue this moving towards the north, a weakening hurricane, it looks like, moving up the peninsula according to this cone, right? So Orlando is going to be right there in the center of your screen, so turning north of Orlando. But notice how close these lines are together. That indicates a storm that's slowing down as it's coming ashore, so a lot of rain it looks like down there before it begins to pick back up, passing Jacksonville as a tropical storm, and eventually close to central Georgia. So if I turn the line on here, what you'll see is, you know, the official forecast is for the center of the storm to pass somewhere near Dublin, Statesboro, Swainsboro area. Now, of course, where the storm passes has some pretty significant impacts for us here in central Georgia because it dictates where the worst part of the storm is going to be. Typically, it's going to be on the right front quadrant, or what's known as the right front quadrant. And what essentially is going on here, let me see if I can pop an arrow in here real fast. Do I have an arrow available? Yes, I do. So what's going on here is, you know, so if the storm is tracking like this, if it's moving up like that, it's going to be this side and here where the worst part of the storm is. So where the track goes, you know, say I've got models taking it over here into Macon. I've got models taking it, you know, up towards Athens. I've got others keeping it offshore and going up towards Charleston. If that were to happen, that would be great for us. Is it likely to happen? Not quite. So something we'll be watching for. But again, anywhere right along this white line where it says Saturday at 2 a.m. right here, that is where the center of the storm could be Saturday at 2 a.m. and then, of course, Sunday 2 a.m. way up there. So that is the cone. Let me see. I'm gonna get to these Facebook comments here in just a moment. Let's talk about the watches and warnings. So there's Cuba. We don't live in Cuba. We live in the United States. Here's what we've got going on here in the United States. So a hurricane warning is in effect from Bonita Beach down to the Fort Myers area. You can see right in here. So that's going to be north of Tampa, Clearwater, St. Pete, all of them in a hurricane warning, all the way down to Fort Myers. And that goes inland just a little bit. Now, once we get to, you know, inland, you're talking about tropical storm warnings. This is going to be from the Big Bend region down through Orlando, Melbourne, down to the south, down towards West Palm, over towards southwest Florida. That's for winds of 39 to 74 miles an hour. Up towards the north, we've got tropical storm watches, which now extend into parts of southeastern Georgia. So if I zoom this in just a little bit, that's coastal Glenn County, coastal Camden County, now included in a tropical storm watch. And that lines up with what we're expecting. So that is the gist of things. What I'm going to do now is try to go through your questions here on Facebook and go through those, answer them as best I can, and we'll pull up the different graphics when I answer them to see how it best applies. So let me pull this up here. In case you were ever wondering, yes, these computers are very functional. They're not just for props. This is where we work. So let's see what we've got here. Got friends near Orlando, says Ashley. Rockledge, are you talking about Rockledge, Georgia, or Florida? Because there's two of them. Rockledge, Florida, you're on, I believe in a tropical storm warning. It's there just on the other side of Merritt Island. Could have some onshore flow there. Let me figure out a better way to see all these questions. There's got to be a better, yeah, here we go. Okay. Michael Fuller, looks like the clean side. Well, okay, so this storm, I hate the word clean side. There's a bad side and a better side. The better side's not great, but it's not tropical tornadoes. I think the best thing to know with this storm is that on the left side, which we very well could be up on, and we're still going to be looking at rain and wind, just not necessarily the tropical tornado threat. Looks like I'm getting hit some on the west end of Washington County. The entire area, all of central Georgia, has the threat of rain and wind. Ashley watching from Dublin, Kent watching from Roberta, Tania asking about Daytona. Daytona and a tropical storm watch, I believe. Let's see. I think Volusia County. Yeah, so Daytona Beach there and a tropical storm watch, which means winds potentially 39 to 74. Worried about the nephew who's in Tampa and a friend and parents are in St. Pete's. Yeah, not a great place to be. Jennifer watching from Hawkinsville. I'm at a timeshare in Myrtle Beach. Should I come home or stay put? I would stay put there. Could see some wind and rain from this, but not too concerned about coastal impacts in Myrtle Beach. Yvonne watching from Dublin. Alicia praying for everyone in the path of this weather. Emily from Fort Valley. Granddaughters in Daytona. Hope for the best for all. Yeah, better in Daytona than it is on the Gulf Coast, that's for sure. Erica watching from Montezuma. Family in Tampa and near Tampa. You know, Ashley, if they are in an evacuation zone, good idea to evacuate. If they're not in an evacuation zone, then they don't necessarily need to evacuate. It's more of a, you know, you evacuate from water. You don't evacuate from wind. What can we expect in Crawford County, surrounded by trees? Okay, so this is a good question. This is a good opportunity to take a look at the different models. Let's go through Central Georgia's timing on this. So this first is the Gfs model, and I'll take this full screen so you can see it a bit better. Jump it forward to Friday afternoon. So here we are at 1 p.m. The GFS is showing the rain just entering Central Georgia. Once we get later into the evening, there's 10. Rain in the eastern half of the area, the center of the storm down towards Florida. Once we get into the overnight hours, there's Saturday morning. Some steadier rainfall at this point. The center of the storm, the GFS turns the storm towards central Georgia. At this point, you see this little white circle right there. That is right over Lawrence County. In fact, I'll take this back here so I can point it out to you. There's a little white circle right there. That is the center of the storm. So what the GFS is doing is pulling it up through the peninsula and over towards Macon by doing that. And when I play this forward just a little bit more, you can see it hangs around for a little while. So there's Sunday at 1 p.m., still looking at a steady rainfall across central Georgia. Doesn't entirely get out of here until Sunday night. Now let's take a look at the European model. The Euro has been all over the place, to put it mildly. So it has the rain starting in our far southeastern counties. This would be Telfair, Wheeler counties at 9 p.m. Thursday. Through the overnight hours and into Friday, steady rain builds in across the area. It will be very windy at this point. We're talking sustained winds potentially upwards of 40 miles an hour. The Euro also turning the storm to right over central Georgia. You see that big white circle from Chattanooga down to Montgomery, over to Savannah, back up towards Columbia. In the center of that circle is the center of the storm. So that's Saturday at 3 a.m., playing this forward through the afternoon, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Still some lingering showers around the area, but the storm beginning to fall apart. When we play the spaghetti models on these, this is the GFS. So what's going on here is the red line is the actual operational run of the GFS. This is what we show you on TV. This is kind of what we looked at on the model just a moment ago. The white lines are the different runs of the GFS, and what that means is there are different runs of the GFS that change small things in the operational run and see how that changes the track. So, one of those white lines is, what if the storm is just a little bit stronger? What if the storm is just a little bit to the east? What if the storm is just a little bit to the west? And then it plays the model forward and says, okay, so what happens if that's the case? Now, typically, these white lines at this point are very close together, but as you can see, they are not. It's a little more put together than what it was earlier. The Euro, definitely more put together than the GFS, at least up towards landfall, but you can see a majority of the ensembles turning it back towards central Georgia. So let's talk about the potential of tropical storm force winds. This is going to be probably our biggest impact, regardless of where the storm tracks, meaning on either side of us. So what happens when a Category 4 hurricane, which is what this expects to be, weakens down to a tropical storm, the energy in the center of the storm that's causing those 140-mile-an-hour winds has to essentially escape that. And what it does is it flames out, it spins out. And what that does is it expands the wind field. So we would be talking about a much larger area of tropical storm force winds than if we just had a tropical storm coming ashore and weakening. So if we play this, now what I want to caution you on, you're looking at these numbers going, well, that's fine. Like 38% chance tropical storm force winds in Vidalia, 19% in Eatonton. I'm not concerned about it. But what this takes into account is the likelihood of this happening 5 days from now. So there's a time factor built into these. In my eyes, and this 3 to 4 day time frame, those are pretty high numbers. Especially when you look at this, I mean, they still have a 60% chance of tropical storm force winds in Jacksonville, where the storm is expected to track very close to as a tropical storm. So take that into consideration when you see those numbers. So I hope that answered a lot of questions. Let me hop back over here to Facebook and we'll start going through these again. Augusta might be in the direct path, could be in the path of the center, but like I was alluding to, it doesn't really matter where the center is. We're all going to be feeling the effects from it. Some schools changed football games to Thursday night. That they did. You can see the full list on 13WMAZ.com. Savannah, what ETA on Friday? It should be overnight Thursday into Friday. So when you wake up on Friday, the event will have begun in Savannah. What about Douglas? About the same thing. Beginning overnight Thursday into Friday, it looks like. Effects in Crawford County, Telfair County, Wheeler County. So let me say this as a blanket statement for Central Georgia. This is going to be the case whether or not you live in Crawford County, Telfair County, Houston County, Macon County, Baldwin County, everybody. We are going to have wind and rain. It looks, the forecast as of now is for wind and rain to start overnight Thursday into Friday, potentially later on Friday morning, somewhere in there, last through the night on Friday, through Saturday morning, and wrap up Saturday afternoon. We're looking at widespread 20 to 35 mile an hour sustained winds, gusts potentially up to 45. That is the plan. Lots of family in Panama City hoping they evacuate. Ashton, I don't think they need to evacuate in Panama City. They should be just okay there. Savannah, very rainy on the beginning of Saturday, not necessarily all day Saturday, Nia. How about Cape San Blas, about 1 hour east of Panama City? Probably some tropical storm force winds there. Florida, got this. They're getting ready. They're used to it. Well, so it's funny you say that. Tampa has not seen a storm this size in a long time. There are a lot of new people in Tampa that might not be ready for this. Watching from Wrightsville, heard that the Gulf waters are really warm. That they are. They're running 86 to 90 degrees right now. Savannah saying good morning. Jasmine saying family is in Tampa. Well, Jasmine, make sure they check and see if they're in an evacuation zone and be sure to follow any orders from local officials. When do we expect the winds and rains to hit central Georgia? We just talked about it. Overnight, early Friday. Early Friday, that's what we'll go with. Sisters in St. Simons believe they have to evacuate. Well, we'll check in on that and see. Kathy saying Rockledge, Georgia, just off I-16. So kind of the same thing I've been saying with everything else. Oh, Rockledge and Lawrence County. Yes, not, early Friday into Saturday. And that's what we're going with for the timing for Rockledge. Nothing wants to go to Macon. Well, Ian might. Let's see. I've answered a lot of these questions. I'm trying to see if I can grab anything new before I have to hop off here. Granddaughters in Valdosta and Statesboro, should they stay over the weekend or try to come home? I think they're fine to stay where they are. Again, you evacuate from water, not from wind. I'm not concerned about having to leave Statesboro or Valdosta. Is it possible that the storm could become a Cat 4 before hitting Florida? That is actually expected. That is in the track. Boys have a game in Hilton Head on Saturday. It depends what time the game is. It looks like Saturday morning it's going to be raining in Hilton Head. Saturday afternoon, probably not. Going to Atlanta on Saturday, assume you need rain gear. Yep, that would be a good idea. Augusta on Sunday, safe drive. Yes, should be. Start getting heavy rain early or late Friday. The timing is very up in the air. I just showed the Euro and the GFS. It's hard to say. Sometime on Friday, it looks like. Probably late morning. If I had to put money on something, late morning is what I would go with. Between Central Georgia and Savannah, Thursday evening. Should be fine in the evening. It's the overnight where it starts, potentially early Friday. What about the race this weekend? Where's the race, Faye? Where's the race? You need to know where the race is. Isn't Gray Middle Georgia? It is. Oh, I see. What else? Again, if you're asking about questions in our area, it's going to be Friday to about late Saturday, early Sunday is what we're looking at. Family in Florida under mandatory evacuation. Fernandina, so down towards the Jacksonville area. So let me say this about St. Simons, Fernandina, Jacks Beach, St. Augustine, down to Daytona. There is going to, even if the storm is to the east, or excuse me, to the west, which it likely will be, the likelihood of storm surge in those areas is actually fairly significant. We could be looking at 2 to 4 feet in a few spots. I know that's the forecast for St. Simons. So again, if evacuation orders come out in those areas, good idea to follow those. Power outages anticipated around Macon. I actually think this is our biggest threat. I think power outages, you get rain for hours on end with a sustained 20 to 30 mile an hour wind and then gusts up to 40 miles an hour. I think it's certainly likely, or certainly possible across the area, I should say. Family in Fort Myers, they're under hurricane warning there. Thank you for keeping us updated, absolutely. Families in Port Charlotte, I believe they're under a hurricane warning there as well. Saturday noon and evening for Dublin, ask Jan, not looking great. Not looking great. Treat it like a snow weekend, says the schools. Yeah, so that's the other thing. If there's anybody from a school district watching, I don't want to tell you whether or not to close. That is a decision for y'all to make. But something to consider is that if you do close, part of the reason would probably be for power outages. So if you're sending home work, there might not be power. Something to keep in mind. There might not be power. Driving from Atlanta to Orange Beach on Friday, going to be wet for the first part of the drive. Not so much in Alabama, but in Georgia, probably. Charlie asked, have I mentioned rainfall totals? No. The reason being is because they're all over the place. But I can tell you what the models have. The Euro has 2 to 4 inches across the area. The GFS has 4 to 7, so a pretty big difference. The official National Weather Service forecast is 3 to 5. So 3 to 5 seems like a reasonable amount given those numbers. And then again, the winds 20 to 35, gusts to 50 is what I've got. So, okay. So lots of the same questions going on. And because of that, I needed to hop off by 9:25, but I'm going to go ahead and do that now because we've got a news meeting that I need to go into. We're going to be talking about the different possibilities for the storm, what we need to be planning for here at 13 WMAZ. So we're going to go do that. I've got that coming up here in a few minutes. Of course, meteorologist Taylor Stephenson will have you set on midday. Anything that changes, we will get a new advisory at 11 a.m. Those are going to be the big advisories. So at 11 a.m., 5 p.m., 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. Those are our big advisories. And then we get the smaller advisories, meaning just like an update. Those are going to be at 2 and 8. So we got one at 8 a.m. this morning. We'll get another one at 2 this afternoon, 8 and 2 and 8 and 2. So she will have the latest on that. But thank you for watching. Of course, we'll keep you updated. Remember, you can download the app. You can watch on Roku, Fire TV, that 13WMAZ Plus app. It's a great resource. We've been posting videos to YouTube. Of course, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter. There are my handles at @ForbesWX. If you haven't already liked my page, followed my Twitter page, I've been posting a bunch of stuff on there as well. So a great resource to have there. Any thoughts I have, any new information I get, I put up there on Facebook and Twitter. So a good idea to be following along. So with that, I will leave y'all. Have a great morning, and certainly check back in for 13 WMAZ midday. Again, meteorologist Taylor Stephenson will have the latest information there.